Hello, my name is Reets. Tonight I'm going to read you a bedtime story about a gorilla named Binti and a little boy. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Sweet dreams. In the year 1988, a baby gorilla was born in a zoo in Chicago. Her mom's name was Lulu and her dad's name was Sunshine. The zookeepers decided to name the little baby gorilla Binti which means daughter of sunshine. Mama Lulu had spent her whole life in a zoo instead of the jungle, so her gorilla instincts were not very sharp. When Binti was born, Lulu was confused. She didn't know how to feed her baby, and she didn't know how to take care of something so tiny and helpless. Lulu had always received her food from humans. She didn't know that mama gorillas were supposed to feed their baby gorillas. She just put Binti in the corner of the gorilla's area and left her there all by herself. Poor Binti wasn't safe from the other gorillas and had no one to feed her. Then along came a zookeeper named Christina to the rescue. Christina noticed the little baby gorilla all by herself. She picked her up, wrapped her in a blanket, and brought her into the animal hospital. Binti spent the first year of her life being cared for nonstop by the zookeepers. They fed her and they taught her everything she needed to know. When she got older, Binti didn't remember that Lulu had left her in a corner. In fact, she thought Christina was her mama. Eventually, Binti got big enough and strong enough to go back to the other gorillas. It was a big day. Christina woke Binti up, gave her her breakfast, brushed her coat, and then took her to where the big gorillas lived. Binti was scared at first. She knew people much better than other gorillas. But Binti's personality was a lot like her name, very sunny, and after a few days she stopped hiding in the corner and got curious. In a few weeks she made friends with the other gorillas and got used to her new home. Even though Binti got comfortable being a gorilla, she was still very fond of humans. She liked making friends with the visitors who came to the zoo. Binti loved seeing new faces every day. Sometimes she would do tricks for the children. Binti was really good at somersaults. She even learned to wave. Binti spent her days doing gorilla things, munching on soft leaves and resting in cool patches of shade. In a few years, Binti had her own baby named Kula. Binti was a great mama. She loved roaming around with Kula on her back. Mama and baby were inseparable. The zoo visitors loved to watch them together. One warm summer afternoon, the gorilla yard was full of visitors. Families strolled by, pointing and taking pictures. Children pressed their noses to the glass. Among the crowd was a little boy named James. James was 3 years old, and it was his first trip to the zoo. He had a book at home about gorillas that he read every single night before bed. When he saw Binti, he was so excited. "Look, Mom, it's the gorilla from the book." Binti caught James' eye and waved. Now, James was only 3 years old, and he didn't know that in real life gorillas could be dangerous. Binti waved, and James was so excited that he wanted to give Binti a hug. So he started climbing the fence. James' mom had turned around to tell his sister something, and she didn't notice that James was climbing. James was a very talented little climber, and it wasn't very long before he was at the top of the fence. But then he slipped. It was 24 feet from the top of the fence into the gorilla's enclosure, and James fell the whole 24 feet. Crash! James' mom saw what had happened too late. She screamed. The crowd gasped. The boy lay very still. Everyone was holding their breath in shock. One visitor called 911. Another ran to alert the zookeepers what had happened. Binti had been waving at the cute little boy. She was surprised when she saw him climbing the fence. None of the other humans had ever climbed the fence before. Then she heard the mom scream and saw poor little James rolling down the hill. Some of the other gorillas noticed too. Not all of the other gorillas were as friendly with people as Binti was. One mean gorilla named Hank might have hurt James if he got too close. Binti's motherly instinct kicked in and she wanted to help. So she ran up to James quickly before any of the other gorillas could reach him. Binti's baby was still on her back. She picked up the unconscious boy and held him safe in her arms. The crowd didn't know that Binti was so sweet. When they saw her running towards James, they didn't know what was going to happen. When they saw how gently she picked him up and how she cradled him like her own baby, their fear turned to amazement. Word got to the zookeepers and they rushed into the enclosure as fast as they could. Binti heard them coming, got up, and gently handed James back to the zookeepers. Little James had to go to the hospital. After all, he did fall 24 feet. His arm was broken and he had a cut in his cheek. But after 4 days in the hospital, he was back at home, safe with his mama. Now, instead of reading his book about the gorillas, he would tell all of his friends about the gorilla who saved his life. He came back every summer to visit Binti, and sometimes the zookeepers would take him into a special area where he could shake her hand. But no more climbing fences for him. And now Binti was a very famous gorilla. She made even more friends, and fans from all over the world sent her letters and treats. The little girl who had been abandoned in a corner became a national hero. The end. Sweet dreams.